We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisol Hernandez. I am the chairman of the board. Seated to my right is Commissioner William Cressy, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any changes? If not, we will proceed with the approval of the special board meeting minutes for July 6, 2016. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just to let you know, the board's been working on several items. First of all, registration department's been working on all the backlog of mail prior to the primary election. Hopefully they'll get that all straightened up so we can do our second mailing of our canvas. So that's being worked on right now. The other items that we have that we're waiting, August 8th, Jim, is the last day for filing referendum.
I believe that's true.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. We'll be trying to work on the ballot layout. We've started laying out everything. Hopefully once those that date passes, we'll be able to hopefully prepare a ballot and send it to the board members for your approval.
Yes, August 8th is the last day for filing
Okay.
petitions for advisory questions.
The other item is on our lower level, we're almost finished with the Agilis room that's being built out. I'm working with the county since that space was, we got the space, but we're working with the county. They have a stake in the game, so they're gonna have to come up with some money on that. So we're working on that with the county. Mr. Prates, the Director of Elections, is out of town right now. He'll be back Wednesday, hopefully get that put together.
Okay.
So everything seems to be moving smoothly. We're still looking for additional space for downtown to do absentee voting, early vote. This is going to be a job. So we're meeting hopefully this week, Wednesday, with 2FM to look at additional spacing. Also, there's been issues about the locations that we're using. We're meeting with 2FM and with the Mayor's Office of Disabilities to get that taken care of. So hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be able to give you some answers of where we're at with all of our early voting sites. But that's all I have from our board members right now.
Ms. Bateman?
I have really nothing to add from Mr. Goff's report. I know that we're going to meet very soon, kind of go over what happened in March as far as same-day registration at polling places and kind of, you know, ramp up our efforts for November. Get it to where it's perfect.
Mr. Allen?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have out there a mailing done by a private organization called the Voter Participation Center. And it has created a couple of concerns for staff here, a couple of calls from voters here and elsewhere around the state. The Voter Participation Center works with privately generated marketing lists where they suspect that someone lives at an address and is not registered. The problem that's become apparent is that some of the people on their list simply are registered under a more extensive first name, for example. So one of our staff members received an application that looks very official to register to vote. She's already registered to vote, and they were using the shortened nickname of her, so they maybe got that from a magazine subscription, an order for pizza to come to the house or whatever. So we've had a number of phone calls from voters or prospective voters. In other cases, they've sent mailings to people who are not yet eligible, either because of age or citizenship status. So we're issuing a news release on that. On the good news front, we received word late last week from Univision. They want to again host a live broadcast so that we can do voter outreach during prime time, in the commercial breaks during one of the novellas. so that we're going to be able to provide information on voter registration, early voting, and other aspects of vote by mail, what have you, to an audience that reaches not only Chicago and the suburbs, but also southern Wisconsin, northwestern, Indiana, and parts of Michigan too. So we've worked with them in the past. It's been very successful. The phones ring off the hook, and this will be happening in early September. We're meeting with internally with managers tomorrow to try to build specifications for early voting. As we discussed at an earlier meeting, there are universities that want us to have a brief period of early voting at sites that we have not had in the past. We want to be able to put together a comprehensive list of specifications so that there's a clear understanding of what we need in terms of the size of the room, the connectivity, the internet, the security issues for the balloting equipment, everything under the sun, so that we don't overextend ourselves and they understand coming into it what we're going to need to actually come out to their campus. Lastly, we are going to be, as Mr. Goff referenced, we're going to be continuing to evaluate what all is going on the ballot, what we know is already in the hopper in terms of judicial retention and referenda and one or two statewide constitutional issues. It's going to be jammed. And our concern is that the touch screens in early voting are going to take much longer to manipulate for each voter, as well as just a lot more time on election day. And we're contemplating having outreach with various media outlets to try to emphasize, here's the situation when we develop some mock-up ballots. Here's the situation of why we're emphasizing vote by mail as an option. And that is all.
I think that's an excellent decision.
Two questions.
When you have, as you know, I'm a professor, so I have an interest in things affecting college campuses. When you have a draft or mock-up of those specs, could you send it by to me, because maybe I can have valuable insight I could contribute?
Well, I'd be glad to, but I just want them to understand, want the universities to understand, these are the specifications that we use, for example, for using a library or a park district facility.
Now,
So
once
I don't want them to say, well, we want them to understand why we need these things and why we need all of them. We don't want to commit to dates,
Right.
and then, have them upset because they're not able to really provide us with the facilities or other means to actually come out there and do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, once we have done the ballot, that will be it. We have with Lance and our experts here, we will have a final, basically, you're just showing others, the public, of the length and what it'll take, right?
It's a question to that question about the specifics. To a point that was brought up by Lance earlier, we talked about the specifics relative to internet and security and things of that nature. But are we adding to that, and do we have enough clarity at this point about ADA specifications for these particular sites? 'Cause I know that's kind of a question right now. So do we have enough clarity to provide, or is that something that will be provided later? Because I would hate for have us work something out and have these locations and all of a sudden they're not accessible the way they need to be.
Well, we did receive just June, the feds just came up with the new ADA guidelines. So
Okay.
we just got it in, so we're going to distribute it. In fact, I think I sent email copies to the board members, so we had that information.
Okay, great. So then that will be lumped into the specification, I presume?
Yes, Commissioner.
Generally. Okay, great. Second question, with regard to this voter participation center, I presume this is being done in just kind of a desire to turn the vote out, or is this being done by any particular entity or party or anything like that nature, trying to?
Well, the Voter Participation Center has performed activities like this in years past, so this is not the first time they've done this.
Okay.
They usually do it during presidential elections and midterm elections. So we don't usually see this kind of activity, but, and it's not just targeted in Illinois, it's nationwide. So there have been stories about this from North Carolina to California and everywhere in between. So they mail out to millions of people who they suspect are qualified to vote and are not registered, but oftentimes they're hitting people who either already are registered or are not qualified to vote.
So you talked about doing a news release, but I just wanted, for the record, presume that we'll put something on our website that can clarify this for anybody that has a question.
Well,
is that possible?
We want to make sure that people understand that this doesn't come from us, because right now it comes with a return envelope that says Chicago Board of Election Commissioners, and
Okay.
that's why some of the calls are coming into our offices. So I don't want to do too much to draw attention to that, but on our voter registration page, we've got all the qualifications for registering to vote.
Okay.
Now, I do know that we received one of those in our household, and it is misleading, because it says something on it regarding government, or, so it's very misleading when you first see it.
That's what was gonna be my question. Do they clearly identify themselves as being the source, or is it ambiguous?
Well, I mean, on the mailing envelope that the voter receives, I shouldn't say voter, the prospective voter receives, there's a return address with their logo, but it kind of lends itself to being interpreted as a government mailing, especially when you have the return envelope with the local jurisdiction. So they're smart enough to have the return envelope targeted to Winnebago County or Chicago or Will County or whatever that prospective voter.
If I could take a look at some of these materials as they come in,
More than
I'd
happy.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Be more than happy.
The issue is that we get tied up with phone calls and with emails saying, did you guys send this out? Don't you know I'm already registered? Most people, when they receive it, don't go online to see if they're registered or not. They just shoot out an email or call up right away. So this has always caused a problem around this time of the election season.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, let's move on to old business and infrastructure projects and changes in election administration. I think we've talked about that to the extent we can.
Yes.
As well, and with respect to electronic poll books? Moving forward, okay. And what is the next step with respect to the electronic poll books? Where are we at, and what?
We are reviewing, we should be getting a beta, which is a new sample of how it works today, because we have added some new features. So we should be getting that today. We'll review it. Staff is meeting, we're meeting with DSNS tomorrow to go over it. Staff is meeting next Monday to discuss our test that we're having the first week of August. So we're having a test in August, beginning to end for the poll book. So
Thank you.
we're on target to have a fully functioning system, you know, with all changes made by early September. Because of training manuals and training classes are going to start real soon.
Right.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ryan from ES&S is here. Judd, you want to add anything additional?
No, I think Kelly summed it up nicely. We're in regression testing, as well as Audra and her staff will be on test rail tomorrow. That'll allow them to step through the product as well. And then, as Ms. Bateman alluded to, we're going to be gearing up for our test the second week in August, which will test every component from end to end and a large scale. So we'll look forward to that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anything regarding voting equipment? I guess not. And legislation. Mr. Scanlon, is there anything?
Madam Chairwoman, the governor did sign Senate Bill 5289. That's the omnibus bill. This is the bill that dealt with a number of issues. for cleaning up Articles 19 and 20 for vote by mail. You know, for example, to make it clear that they could be postmarked on election day as opposed to the day before the election. It also approved the use of intelligent barcodes. It approved use of digital signatures. It also moved the deadline for online voter registration to the 16th day before the election, as opposed to the 28th. So there are a number of things that are affected by that bill. And I'll again reissue the summary I issued earlier, just to remind folks the implications and extent of the bill. You have a question? Okay. So I'll get that out. So
Okay. And
Go ahead.
just the digital signatures?
yes.
For what particular purpose is it?
Well, the only thing they excluded was on nominating petitions and referendum petitions. So for petitions, you still need an ink signature. Everything else is open for digitization. So you could have registrations, online registrations,
Okay.
with digitized signatures. You can have ballot applications.
We won't be prepared for this upcoming election for that, though.
Okay, but it's permitted. So it pretty much opens it up to a broad range of possible uses.
Will we have to, we'll have to get additional new software and, for this, or to be able to process?
Well, not for November.
Not for November,
no,
but after
we,
November?
ESNS has that capability built into their system.
Okay.
We just don't have enough time to test it.
So is this a required kind of mandate to say that we have to transfer anything other than nominating petitions and referenda to digital signature, or is it at the option of the local election commission?
No, it doesn't require you to transfer anything, it just makes it acceptable. You have to accept it. So, you know, online voter registration, we already have digitized signatures there. And we capture digitized signatures from the Secretary of State's office. But it doesn't require the board, you know, commit to transferring over any existing signatures into digitized form.
Okay.
So for example, when the voter comes in on election day to the polling place, rather than signing a sheet of paper requesting a ballot, they could go to much as we do now on credit card, you just sign a screen.
If we have the equipment to do
If we
that,
go,
yes.
if we go in that direction.
Yes, that's correct.
And you do, sorry.
No, Judd, you can,
You are ready to do that when you decide to make the move. The stand that the poll book is mounted on, it will swivel, so the poll worker can turn it around for the voter, and the voter can sign on screen either using their fingertip or a stylus.
thank you.
Sure.
At some point, I'd like to see an example of that. I know for me, trying to make my digital signature match my real signature is very difficult because of how I sign my name. So I just like to see how that works. So at some point in the next couple of weeks.
It is similar to what you experience at a point-of-sale device. It is not, you know, it's good technology, but it's not like ink on paper. It is different.
Sure.
So it is.
That's why I'd like to experience it
Yeah,
firsthand.
yeah.
As one that has a very interesting signature.
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much.
If there are no further questions, and Mr. Scanlon, is that it for the legislation?
Yes, Madam
Okay.
Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Wasn't there a second piece of legislation sitting on the governor's desk regarding elections?
Right, automatic voter registration, but that still hasn't been signed by the governor.
Okay, and he has until,
Yeah, it's 60 days from the date he received it, sometime in August.
okay, thank you.
Okay. There is no new business. So we will proceed with the legal report. Mr. Scanlon?
Nothing further to report, Madam Chairwoman. I will, at the appropriate time, ask for an executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Okay. There is no financial report. And I did not receive any public comment requests. Helene?
Oh, I
Okay.
just said I had registered, I had applied online to be an election judge.
Yes. Well, yeah, well,
It went live
It was a
yesterday.
smooth process yesterday.
Yay.
so that is very nice to hear,
That went live yesterday.
on the online registration for judges of election. And is there any way to track, there should be a way to track how many come from different areas, how, you know, what, the number of people who are applying online to become election judges, so we could see,
Absolutely.
and maybe by different areas, I'd be interested to know which are the strongest areas and which are the weakest areas, to get a better feel for what we need to do to get
Get the word out.
get judges from those areas that are not receiving this information.
We can definitely track that by zip code, age, gender, ward, precinct, however you want to splice and dice those data.
That would be great. Okay.
I wait.
No, not like that.
Um,
TMI.
The next item on the agenda is executive session, and Mr. Scanlon, you indicated that we will have the need for executive session to discuss possible litigation,
Pending litigation.
pending
And
litigation.
so I would ask for a motion to convene into executive session under Section 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss pending litigation.
Okay. And once we come back to from executive session, we will resume, we will be in open session. And if there are any motions that need to be made at that time, we will make them in open session. We will not make any decisions or motions in executive session. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And so now we will, motion passes, we will go into executive session. We are back in open session. At executive session, the board discussed the case of Cook County Republican Party and Chicago Republican Party versus the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Case number 16C 6598 before Judge Milton Shader. We will be, the board will be filing a response. Is that correct, Mr. Scanlon?
That is correct, Madam Chairman.
On Tuesday, July 19th, and discuss the board's, or the majority of the board's position, as well as the importance of issuing a quick decision by the court on this matter, given the fact that we are under very short timelines to finalize the ballot. We still have not issued a decision in this case, and we do have to account for one of the parties appealing the board's decision to circuit court, the appellate court, and possibly even the Supreme Court, and getting a final decision on this matter so that we can print the ballots. Is there anything more that needs to be added, Mr. Scanlon?
No, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. And so at this time, we will adjourn to our next a regularly scheduled meeting, unless we need an earlier meeting, Mr. Goff?
No.
Okay,
No.
so that will be July 26, 2016.
I will still, I'll be traveling on that day. Would there be any possibility of making the 27th? And considering the case and the briefing schedule, that might be preferable.
We could, I don't know, the part everyone has.
Just bring me birthday cake and I'll be good.
And, so we can, I'm available on the 27th or the 28th.
I'm out of town the 28th, the 27th I'm here.
If we make the 27th, could we make it at 10 o'clock? That's the only thing I have.
Yes,
I would say so because we may,
okay,
Mr. Scanlon may be in court at that.
okay.
Works for me.
July, we will adjourn until July 27th, 2016 at 10 a.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.